if I had I had a lot of money, if I just had all the money I needed to invest in anything, if I just got this one wish, we'll pretend that this is Aladdin and one wish, only one, you can have all the money
rubbing
you
the magic
need,
lamp,
right, to invest in anything you want to invest in. You know what I'd do? I'd invest in an NFL franchise. Because if I invest in an NFL franchise, everything else I want to do is going to happen for me. This is Jason,
yeah.
It is a foolproof investment. You can't go wrong. It's the one business where you can be an absolute idiot. You can be an idiot and make money.
Yes.
It's a beautiful thing.
You can be an idiot.
When I see...
You can be an idiot.
Yeah.
You can be morally corrupt, and it'll work great for you.
Yes. Yeah, right. Like all those things. And why am I bringing this up? Because I'm thinking about Daniel Snyder. The news today is that Daniel Snyder, now he's brought in his Bank of America, that's his bank, and he is investigating exploring all options on the sale of the Washington Commanders. Now, I just want you to keep this in mind. You want to talk about irony. I think I'm using this term correctly. And since you're a doctor and I'm not, you can correct me on this if this is the wrong usage. I think irony applies in the case of Daniel Snyder. He was 34 years old when he bought the then Washington Redskins. He was 34, and he made his money. I don't know if a lot of people know this. People in Washington know, but people around the country may not know that he made his money in marketing. Isn't that hilarious? I mean, like, he was a marketing genius. Like Daniel Snyder made his money in marketing. And now you look at the state of the Washington Commanders, who are a marketing disaster. I think that's irony. I think that is. But anyway, he bought the team, Jason, for $800 million in 1999. $800 million. And if he actually does go through with the sale of the team, he's going to get maybe $4, $5, $6 billion. He is now. That would suggest that he's done a good job with the Washington Commanders. It would suggest he's been a good steward for the last 23 years. We know he has not. Yet he and his wife Tanya there and the Snyder family, they're going to make a bunch of money. He's still in his early 50s. As I told you, he bought the team when he was 34. He's not that old. He's in his early 50s. He's going to have a nice life if he sells this team. My question for you is, do you believe it? Do you believe he's going to sell the team?
I don't believe it yet. Here's the thing, Michael, and I say this to people all the time. I say this to my friends on my two fantasy leagues, one of which I'm actually doing halfway decent. I say this to my friends. We just sit around and we watch football on Sundays. Most of these owners don't care about winning. They don't care the way you do. They don't care the way gambling does. They don't care the way the networks do. They don't care about winning. They own these teams because it is the most exclusive club that you can be in America. It's way more exclusive than the Republican Party or the Boule or the Boy Scouts or AKA any other organizations, okay? There's only 32 teams. There's only 32 people who can be owners of these 32 teams of the most popular sport in America. It's a letter jacket for them, okay? It's a tattoo across the chest. That's why they own these teams. So I don't believe that Dan Snyder, who has taken hits for his horrible management of the team, not just as far as play on the field, but I'm talking about within the organization. When you have accusations of decades of sexual harassment and abuse, when you are accused of making cheerleaders take topless photos for season ticket holders, when you're accused of sending cheerleaders to other countries and taking their passports so that they cannot leave for uncomfortable things that you want them to do, when you engage in that kind of behavior, the only club you've got left is a group of other billionaires who will cover for you. So do I think he's going to sell this team? No. Do I think he's exploring options? Yes, because it sounds nice. But I promise you, Dan Snyder is still going to be the owner of the Commanders in the fall of 2023.
Because of what you just mentioned, that's why I have, as I said, I've got skepticism, I've got suspicion, I've got cynicism. Any other adjective you want to put on there, any kind of words you want to use, those words to be appropriate because of what you just said. nobody can make you give it up. I know NFL owners technically have the right to do it. 24 out of 32 have to come together and say, you're out. But I just have a hard time believing that Robert Irsay looks around the room. Jim Irsay, I always do this. Robert was his dad. Jim Irsay looks around the room and says, me plus 23. Who's coming with me? I don't think he's got 23 votes in there. I don't think he does. And the commissioner, I think Daniel Snyder spoke some truth when he said, and you know, that story we talked about, ESPN story with Seth Wickersham and Don Van Natta Jr. had the story like, hey, Roger knows. I got some stuff on Roger. So I don't think the commissioner is gonna push these guys to come together. Can we get another vote and another? You know how they do in some of those organizations that you mentioned, Doc, where they have votes.
Yeah.
And so they need a certain number. They don't reach a certain number. They take a break, and they come back and they vote again. And pretty much the message is, we ain't going home until we reach this number. I don't think Roger Goodell is going to do that with Daniel Snyder because of what it potentially opens up for him and the rest of these owners.
Michael, not only are you absolutely correct, let me put this in a more granular level. All right? 23andMe is what it would take to remove him. And that ain't in the DNA of any of these owners, if you get my dual meaning.
Nice.
Okay? Like, it ain't in their DNA.
I love it.
They don't hold other people accountable. So yeah, I don't see that happening at all. And here's the other thing, though, that I think is important. You mentioned at the beginning. When you talk about the value of these teams, the Washington football team has always been a top 3, top 4 most valuable team in the entire country because of where they're located. It ain't because of how they've won. It's because you're in Washington, D.C., so you don't just get the local D.C. metropolitan area money. You also get every single dignitary, every business person, every world leader who decides, I want to watch American football on a Sunday. I heard you guys have this weird game that looks like trench warfare from World War I, right? That's the kind of money that you get. And he has access to people that he will never have access to again. Now, look, I theorized a couple years ago when they were doing the name change, I thought he was going to sell the team about a year or two ago. Because I thought, hey, what better way to drive up the price, right? If you were going to sell it for $5 billion, maybe you can get $6 billion if you say, I'm not only selling the team. I think I actually said this on the show with you and Michael. I'm not only going to sell the team, I'm going to sell the naming rights, right? Like, you can add an extra billion. That's like telling somebody, it's like, hey, I started the basement, but you get to finish it if you're selling a new house. I thought he was going to sell the naming rights. But once he decided to name it this god-awful 1980s superhero villain name, the Washington Commanders, which still makes me think of someone screaming Cobra and smacking Destro upside the head, I knew he was going to hold on to this team for a while longer.
Yeah, and this is quite a return on investment for Snyder. As I said, it came in at a record price. At $800 million. And he's going to go, whoever sells. I mean, it's just going to just get used to that phrase.
Right.
Sold for a record price, bought for a record price, because the next buyer of an NFL franchise, most recent is Denver, and that was 4.6 billion, something like that. That was the Broncos. So if you buy, you're buying at a record price. If you sell, you're selling at a record price. And a lot of these owners who just sit here, they remember, I'll call it the Millionaires Club, because those are the owners who actually bought their team for millions and not billions. So the Millionaires Club,
right?
And the 100,000 Club, oh my, you know, that's like that old money. That's the Fords and the Hallises and the Maras. That's a different game altogether. So it's just wealth. It is just this generational wealth, just folding over and tripling and quadrupling and doing all sorts of things with your money as you sit there. And Doc, as you said it right, as you sit there, whether your team is good or not. You mean the Fords? The Fords.
Right.
In Detroit, and Vinny has talked about it. He has had a great acronym for Ford, found on road dead. Okay. That's their team. They've won one playoff game. They won one playoff game since 1957. One playoff game since 1957. And you know what they are? Rich.
One.
Wealthy.
Yes.
So You don't have to do
Michael,
anything.
I'll take it one step further.
Why would he do it? Why would Daniel Snyder do it? Because if the NFL is forcing him to do it, then it goes back to my original point of I don't think they would do that. I don't think they'd lean on him that way. They don't have any kind of leverage over him.
No.
Is he just tired of it? Does he just want to take the money? Like I don't understand why he would do it. That's why I'm so skeptical.
And here's the thing. I say this about Dan Snyder. I've said this plenty of times about current President Joe Biden. When have we ever known really rich old white people to just give up power because they want to? Joe Biden's going to run for president in 2024. I never heard of an old, rich, powerful white person saying, I'm just done and tired of running things. That does not happen, okay? People don't give up NFL franchises just for the heck of it, just because they feel bad, just because a couple of people in the street say, I don't like you and I don't want you to have this team. But I think you're also pointing out something that's really key here about how the NFL is, of course, a representative of how the United States in general works. You've got massive, massive, massive generational wealth handed to people who oftentimes did not earn it on their own. They're riding on the backs of generations of wealth that was produced before them, and they still think they're entitled to access to anything and everything. Most NFL owners, who we can't name unless you're a huge fan, these people are wealthy at a level that if they woke up tomorrow with Donald Trump and Oprah Winfrey's money, they jump out a window with depression. Okay, like that's how rich these guys are. That waking up with Oprah's money would be depressing to them. So when you're talking about that level of wealth, these aren't people who are concerned with what the regular commoners and commentator people feel about how they manage their teams. They are more about acquiring the level of power and maintaining that power regardless of the circumstances. If you can buy the Broncos that hadn't been to a Super Bowl, hadn't been to the playoffs in 7 years, if you can keep the Detroit Lions, who have one playoff win in almost 50 years in most of our lives, if you can keep the Washington football team, which is just riddled with scandal one way or another, if anybody could buy the New Jersey Nets, which have been a trash team for decades on end and then filled with equally problematic players, ain't nobody giving up this level of power. One man can have all that power, and it's not Ye, it's Daniel Snyder. He's not going anywhere.
Way to land that plane, too. Way to land that plane. I thought when you first said it, I was like, oh, is that a reference to Malcolm X? You know, the scene, he's outside the L.A. Police Department, and the police sergeant is looking there and saying, oh, man, one man has all that power. Yeah. Then X goes, okay, and they turn and they walk off. Ooh, powerful scene in there.
And they walk off.
As we go to break, I do want to clarify as we go to break. Sure, I had all the money in the world. I'd invested in an NFL franchise, but then, Doc, I would feed the hungry. I'd clothe the poor. I'd carry out the exhortation of the gospel to look out for the least of these. I'm looking out for the least of these. Yes, I will. But I need my franchise. Because that money just keeps rolling over. And tell me, what position do you want? What position do you want on my team? You have a position. You want to be on the coaching staff? You want to be on the front office?
I would be a general manager. I'd be a general manager, and I would have a field day.
Well, I'm going to tell you this. As my general manager, you're not trading for Russell Wilson, okay? I know you're trying to convince me.
Where's this coming from? No, I wouldn't trade for Russell either.
We're not doing
that. I have
that.
other plans.
No, we're not doing it. Well, tell me your plans. I want to make sure. Hey, I would say I'm not leaving town till that general manager of mine tells me what he's trying to do. Hey, thanks for watching Brother from Another on YouTube. Make sure you hit subscribe before you leave, and be sure to watch us 3 to 5 p.m. Eastern Time on Peacock. Appreciate you.